What's up guys, Asian here again with another iteration of the PTS patch notes for Elsweyr. This time we're going to be talking about the Sorcerers. Again, I'm doing this series of videos because the Elsweyr patch notes is quite large, and so I'm breaking it down into more digestible chunks here so you guys can just look specifically at what is interesting to you, what is most relevant to whatever roles or class that you end up playing. So this particular one is going to be taking a look at all of the class changes that were made to the Sorcerers. I do have links down in the description below to the rest of the PTS patch notes videos broken down by class, as well as sort of general Elsweyr changes and base game changes. But this one is going to be taking a look specifically at Sorcs, and we're going to be taking a look mostly at a PvE perspective. I will touch upon PvP here and there where I feel comfortable, but that is not my primary area of expertise, so I highly recommend you guys check out another content creator who might be more fluent in PvP if you're interested in that side of how these changes are going to impact you. So, starting things off here first, we're talking about the Dark Magic skill tree. The crystal shards, they reduce the cost of this ability and its morph by approximately 15% to put it in line with our other cast time abilities, so a nice buff to overall Sorc sustain in PvE as well as PvP. Dark Exchange, to fix an issue where this ability and the Dark Conversion morph would fail to return resources or heal if they were cast while silenced. Encased, they reduced the duration of the immobilized from this ability and its morph to 4 seconds from 4.5 seconds. The Shattering Prison morph, they increased the damage of the explosion by approximately 82% to put it on par with other AoE instant hit abilities such as Cleave or Impulse. So this is going to be a very small nerf to Sorc tanks who use Encase as their hard CC. Shattering Prison does seem like it's a buff. I don't remember off the top of my head which morph is used in PvP, but if it is Shattering Prison, then you guys just got a nice buff to your damage. Negate Magic, which is the ultimate, they fixed an issue where this ability would fail to continue suppressing AoE abilities inside of the area, and they also updated the tooltip to better describe the function of this ultimate, so just a couple of sort of UI changes, not really any sort of major changes to Negate Magic. Under the Daedric Summoning skill line, Daedric Curse, they fixed an issue where the AoE detonation of this ability and its morphs could be blocked. Note this refers only to the AoE portion of the ability, as the original target couldn't block the damage. So the curse explodes and it deals damage to the original target and an AoE damage, so it's kind of like an explosion and then everybody around the explosion gets damage. You can block now that the expansion, or I should say, they fixed it where the initial so they fixed an issue where it could be blocked, so now it can't be blocked anymore. So it seems like you could block the explosion initially, so now they just made it so you can't block it. The Daedric Prey Morph, they reworked the ability rank up of this ability. Instead of gaining 1.1% damage on the explosion per rank, this ability becomes cheaper as it ranks up. Final cost is now 2160 at base, down from 2430, but will deal 3.3% less damage overall. So a boost to sustain, but a overall loss in damage. They added a pet taunt functionality to this ability that is similar to the one built into heavy attacks, so your active pets will now prioritize targets with Daedric Prey on them. They reduced the damage bonus for pets from this ability to 40% from 55%, and they fixed an issue where the Summon Unstable Familiar pulse was not being affected by this ability. The morph version was already working properly. So for Pet Sorcs, this is going to be a nerf overall, mainly because that damage bonus was reduced to 40% from 55%, so your pets will not be doing quite as much damage, but in return you do get a little bit better sustain, which is really where the Sorc weak point actually is. It's more the sustain, less so from the pure damage perspective, but it is going to be an overall DPS loss for Pet Sorcs because of that reduction in damage bonus. Argent Ward, they fixed an issue where this ability was getting a 40% bonus to strength rather than 20% bonus. The bonus cannot circumvent the health cap of 50%, so if you were already over that bonus, you will see no change to power. This is really going to affect more PvP compared to PvE, so your shield will be a little bit smaller because in PvP, you do get affected by the Battle Spirit effect in Cyrodiil and Battlegrounds, but in PvE, your shield was already hitting that health cap, so it doesn't really affect PvE all too much. Stormcalling is the last skill line. This is going to have a little bit more here. The Bolt Escape, they fix an issue where this ability and its morph can stun targets behind walls. Streak will now scale with your highest defensive stats, and they increase the stun duration to 3 seconds from 1.8 seconds, so overall a buff to Streak. For Lightning Form, the Boundless Storm morph, the morph now grants 4 seconds of Major Expedition immediately, rather starting at 2.5 seconds and ranking up as the ability progresses. This ability's damage will now get 1.1% stronger per rank, ending at a 3.3% damage increase at rank 4. This is overall a buff to Boundless Storm, both for PvP and PvE, so now you get your Mage Expedition right away compared to having to wait a little bit in order to get it. And plus the damage increase is going to be useful for PvP and PvE. You don't really see this move used all too often in PvE. You typically see something like Bound Aegis on the back bar, but you can use this if you do need like a major ward, major resolve in PvE. So this just helps out a little bit with your damage output. Lightning Splash. They increased the duration of this ability and its morph to 8 seconds from 6 seconds. Liquid Lightning now lasts for 12 seconds to retain the extra 4 seconds of duration increase. Lightning Flood, they increased the damage of this morph by 5%. So this is pretty interesting because originally Liquid Lightning lasts for 10 seconds, so now it has 2 second additional duration, so now you don't have to cast it quite as often, so again, sustained bonus overall. But Lightning Flood now, that deals a little bit more damage, might be a better option. I will have to play around with the rotation to kind of see whether Lightning Flood or Liquid Lightning is going to be a stronger use here. The increase of the duration to 8 seconds makes it line up a little bit better now with Blockade. Now, I have seen that some Nagsworks have been using Unstable rather than Unstable Wall of Elements compared to Blockade of Elements in order to maintain that 2 second sort of 2 second difference there, so that way they can keep the dynamic rotation, because otherwise it'll be a little bit more difficult to play with Lightning Flood and Blockade because they both have an 8 second duration. So I have seen that floated around, so I will try that out on the PTS when I get a chance to do so, to kind of see how if Lightning Flood and Unstable Wall perform better than Liquid Lightning and Blockade. Mage's Wrath, they increased the damage of the area of effect damage of this ability and its morphs by 20% to put it on par with our other executes. They fixed an issue where this ability's detonation was able to be dodged despite the initial hit also being able to be dodged. Now if the initial hit lands on the target, they will not be able to dodge the detonation. So the way Mage's Wrath work is you have the initial hit, and then if you are below that 20% health threshold, there's a second detonation afterwards. So there's actually 2 hits overall. The first hit is a direct damage, and then the second hit has a direct damage and an AoE portion of the ability. So this particular change basically changes that AoE damage of the ability. So it does end up buffing Mage's Wrath overall by the 20% additional damage, because that second hit has a direct damage component to the target, and the AoE effect also hits the target as well. So it basically acts as 3 separate hits. So you have 2 direct hits, the initial hit, the execute detonation, and then the AoE explosion also counts as a 3rd hit, I believe. I will have to double check that on comment metrics, but I believe that's how it all works out. So this is a buff to PvE Sorcs as well as PvP Sorcs. Endless Fury now returns Magicka if the target died within 5 seconds of taking damage, rather than only if this ability gained the killing blow. It also increased the amount of Magicka returned by approximately 10%. This is going to be more useful for PvE. I don't know if Endless Fury is the one that's used in PvP. I think the other morph is the one that's typically used Mage's Fury instead. Overload, this ability and its morphs will now properly scale with Staff Expert in the champion point system. They also updated the tooltip of this ability and its morphs to better describe functionality. Power Overload, which is one of the morphs, they increase the damage dealt of light and heavy attacks override by 10% to improve the morph distinction. I have not really played around with Overload as a PvE morph. I do know that PvP, it's not quite as popular as it used to be about like 2-3 years ago, but it's still potentially used as an Overload ganking build. I've seen those kind of floated around. Overall, I don't think you're going to be using this for PvE on a Mag Sorc, at least, not even on a Stam Sorc, because the Storm Atronach is still probably going to give you higher single target DPS, plus it also provides major Berserk when you activate this energy. So Overload, this is a buff overall, but Storm Atronach is still going to be the better ultimate to use, just for that major Berserk synergy that you provide in PvE. So that is pretty much it for this video. Again, links in the description below to the other patch notes videos that I have released. I hope you guys found this video informative, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.